Week 18 of the NFL season has arrived, and the Steelers are searching for answers on how to get back in the win column before the playoffs begin. The AFC North and the playoff positioning both on the line as the Steelers host the red-hot Cincinnati Bengals. We have all the latest on this matchup coming up next as you are watching Steelers Kickoff live right here on KDKA TV.
Welcome to BetMGM Steelers Kickoff.
Good morning, everyone, and welcome inside the KDKA studios for another edition of Steelers Kickoff. I'm Bob Pompeani, joined as always by the quarterback of the program, Charlie Batch. And we have a lot to get into. Rich Walsh and Gerry Dulac also in studio today. Join us momentarily. So, Charlie, let's begin. The Steelers weren't happy about being forced to play 3 games in 11 days. They went 0-3 during this stretch, especially after the results of these games. As I said, 0-3. And former player, somebody who's been through this kind of situation before, is that something you just roll with? You know the schedule's out there, no complaints. And what would you say about a future schedule like this?
Yeah, I think when you look at this, I think ultimately when you say it, you're like, okay, these guys are new to Pittsburgh because that's why you roll with it, right? When you're in Pittsburgh, 4 of your games are going to be prime time. You may get a 5th one, and one of those games are going to be against the Ravens. So that's just what it is when you play for Pittsburgh. But I think moving forward, I think the way that you address this is try to take more of a leadership role within your union. You become a player rep, voice your opinions at the combine that happens in February. I was a player rep for 5 years, on the executive committee for 5. Pass it along to Ryan Clark. Ryan Clark passed it along to Sean Sweesom, who ultimately passed it along to Cam Hayward as they all sit on the executive committee. That's how you voice your opinion. And if you want to step up, there's people in the locker room that actually can answer your question.
Interesting stuff, and it's no secret the Steelers have been on the worst losing skid of the season at the worst possible time to do so. We all know this was going to be the toughest part of their schedule coming into the month of December, but the Steelers have fallen out of the running for the top seed in the AFC and out of the running for the driver's seat of the AFC North in a matter of 3 weeks' time. Seems longer than that since we've seen a win for this team. So because of this bad month here, Charlie, the Steelers have plenty to play for in this one. Let's take a look at what's at stake in today's Hyundai by the numbers, and we'll put it into clearer focus for you. The Steelers win and a Ravens loss. That means the Steelers will be the 3rd seed. If the Steelers and Ravens both win, they'll fall to the 5th seed because the Ravens have the edge in the AFC North. The Steelers will also be a 5th seed with a loss, Baltimore win, and a Chargers loss. And the Steelers could fall all the way to the 6th seed with a loss and a Baltimore win plus a Chargers win. So, Charlie, you've been around Mike Tomlin for a long time in that facility, both good times and bad. What do you think his message is to this team this week?
Yeah, I think when you fall going into this game, you'll know your fate, whether you win the division or not. And if you don't win the division, guess what? You still want to get hot at the right time. That means taking care of business today here against the Bengals. But ultimately, if you want to accomplish your goal, which is hoisting that Lombardi Trophy, winning the Super Bowl, it's a 4-game season after this. So you have to now figure out a way to play your best ball, and it's right there in front of these guys.
All right, for more on this pivotal AFC North matchup, including additional news and notes, we send it across the studio. Rich Walsh is standing by with our Post-Gazette Steelers insider, Gerry Dulac.
All right, thanks a lot, Bob. Okay, Gerry, there's a lot of scenarios here going on with the Steelers playoff situation. Is there any chance that the Steelers would maybe sit some starters or treat this game differently if they know the division is out of reach prior to this game?
Yeah, Rich, none. If anybody knows Mike Tomlin, he would never do that. The only way starters might be pulled from the game or rested at some point is if the Steelers somehow are winning 40-3. Otherwise, they need to win this game. And to Charlie's point, I mean, after a 3-game losing streak, to be outscored 90-40, it's most important that they win a game and get back on track, and that's going to be their goal tonight.
Yeah, they definitely need some momentum heading into the postseason. Cornerback is certainly a key position tonight against Joe Burrow and those wide receivers. You know, what's the status of the Steelers cornerbacks, Joey Porter Jr. and now Dante Jackson again?
Yeah, both of them are expected to play, Rich. Joey Porter Jr., of course, has missed the last game and a half, and having him back will be key. Now, we saw the struggles he had in the last game against T. Higgins. Joey Porter was called for 6 penalties, 4 of which were accepted. And so they hope to not have that happen again. But T. Higgins is expected to play. He's been battling injuries, but it's still big to have Joey Porter back, and Dante Jackson will play.
All right, one last thing. It's not going to impact this game, but the Steelers open up the window for Roman Wilson, Cole Holcomb, and Logan Lee. Do you expect those guys to be an impact at all this season?
I don't expect them to have an impact, Rich, but it's possible we might see them added to the 53-man roster, especially Cole Holcomb. And while their depth inside, inside linebacker obviously is really good, Cole Holcomb, if nothing else, would give them fresh legs. And this is a sideline-to-sideline guy. That's why they signed him last year in free agency, last year, to be their 3-down linebacker. Now they have that with Patrick Queen, but he's looked very good and he's very fast. And so adding him to the roster is a possibility.
Yeah, an amazing recovery by Holcomb, guys.
Thanks very much, Rich and Gerry. And now it's time for Charlie's weekly quarterback analysis, which, as you know, is brought to you by Cleveland Brothers. The knock on Russell Wilson last year in Denver, Charlie, is that he gave up on plays too early, didn't stay in the pocket long enough for a play to develop. Have you seen any of those things so far in this 3-game losing streak?
Yeah, I haven't, to be honest with you. And when I hear that criticism, I'm like, okay, the people evaluating him, did they actually throw the football and stand in that pocket? And the answer to that is no. Watching Russell, yeah, there's sometimes that they're play developing down the field, but guess what? The protection breaks down. But when he does have the time to be able to deliver the football, he is making the accurate read. So I don't have any concerns as it relates to what Russell Wilson looks like moving forward.
All right, we're just getting started here on Steelers Kickoff. When we come back, we break down some of the Steelers' miscommunication problems they've had in recent weeks on defense. So keep it locked and loaded right here on KDKA TV.
Welcome back to BetMGM Steelers Kickoff.
It's another Saturday game day here on KDKA, and the defense has been a hot spot of discussion in recent weeks. You know, it hasn't been for the right reasons. Rich Walsh has the latest now on what the team is playing to rebound on that side of the ball. A lot of problems there, Rich.
Yeah, the Steelers have been searching for answers on defense, especially the last 3 games with miscommunication issues. Something like that shouldn't happen in the final weeks of the season. Frustration has definitely boiled over in that locker room after that Christmas Day game, but Minka Fitzpatrick thinks they've resolved it. Cooler heads did prevail as some teammates apologized for the public venting of frustrations, and Steelers safety Pro Bowler Minka Fitzpatrick said the team is working on solutions to some of the blatant miscues in coverage that we have all seen in the last month.
I think teams are scheming us. They're knowing that we're having some issues with motions and stacks and bunches and stuff like that. Because if you look at the stuff that we've been beat on, or when guys are running open, it's stuff that, you know, each team kind of got from the last team. So, you know, we've made a real big emphasis this week on those style of plays and even plays that can stem off from it, and working on communication, everybody being on the same page, and playing fastball. Conflict, bickering, all that stuff is going to happen in a locker room, whatever sport you're playing. But the important thing is to have a solution as to why.
Well, Gerry, you were in the locker room after that Christmas Day game. You've been in the locker room all week. What do you make of this kind of mini controversy? And do you agree with Minka that it is fixable?
Well, Rich, according to the coaches, they believe it is too, because the mistakes are coming in packages and in calls that they've been using all season. The problem is, in week 17, you shouldn't be making the same mistakes that are being made in weeks 3 and 4 and are fixed at that point, and that's what's happening again here. But one of the things the Steelers will do tonight against the Bengals, they'll try to simplify their calls, cut down on the ones they are calling to make sure they're not having these miscommunication issues. We'll see if it is fixable. It's a tough one, though, against Joe Burrow.
Yeah, a lot of tight ends wide open in the end zone. The Steelers have no choice to fix it, or it'll be a very short playoff run.
Yeah, nobody's hotter than Joe Burrow. This is an interesting game for them tonight. All right, thank you, gentlemen. One player who should be thrilled about facing the Bengals to end the regular season is T.J. Watt, who has been an absolute menace to Cincinnati offenses in recent years. In 14 games, I mean, check this out. He's accumulated 14 sacks, 25 quarterback hits, 15 tackles for loss, 6 forced fumbles. The Steelers are also 11-3 in those games. So, Charlie, Watt has been good against just about every team, but he's really been unstoppable against Cincinnati. Lately, I still believe he might be playing injured a bit. What is it about the Bengals that brings out the best of T.J. Watt?
Yeah, this is a divisional game. You're studying your opponent twice a year, so you know what makes them tick. And now you have to credit T.J. right now with film study, because he's getting tips and realizing when it's a run or quick pass, maybe even deeper pass. So he understands what he needs to do, and that's why he's really unstoppable in there, because of the work that he's putting in behind the scenes.
All right, coming up next here on Steelers Kickoff, we're going to preview the Bengals. They've won 4 in a row. Also, Merrill Hodge is back with another edition of the Playbook. We'll be right back after this short time.
Look at this blessing. Look at the energy that we got in the stadium right now. Here we go, Steelers Nation. Legends are built here. Don't wait find somebody to make the play. You make the play. Interception. Make it. To go. And that's another. Pittsburgh Steelers.
Oh, that'll get you ready. Here's a live look at Acrisure Stadium, site of tonight's Week 18 finale for the Steelers, taking on the hot Bengals. A lot on the line in this game. AFC North crown, playoff positioning, and for the Bengals, really their playoff lives depend on a win. So Cincinnati's offense looked pretty stout against the Steelers in the first meeting of the season, but now the team is on a vengeance tour, clawing their way back at a crack at this postseason. They've won 4 in a row. Joe Burrow is on fire. They're looking to make it 5 in a row. Rich Walsh has more on what the Bengals have been up to, and it's all been good offensively, Rich.
Yeah, Bob, just over a week ago, nobody knew whether today's game against the Bengals would matter for either team. The Steelers were hoping to lock up a division title, while Cincy was simply fighting to keep their slim playoff hopes alive, which still are. But as fate would have it, there are implications for both sides tonight, especially for the visitors.
When the Steelers beat the Bengals in a shootout 1 month ago, it seemed like their season was over. At 4-8, Cincy looked dead in the waters of the Ohio River. But like a phoenix rising from the ashes, they somehow resurrected their season with 4 straight wins.
Burrow, sideline, Chase, spin. There he goes. Jamar Chase. Not catching him. Touchdown, Bengals.
The leader of that comeback was quarterback Joe Burrow, who single-handedly carried them, especially late in games. Last week, he threw for over 400 yards and saved his coach from some questionable clock management against Denver.
And Burrow with the ball, 1st and goal. End zone, caught, Higgins, touchdown, Bengals win.
He leads the league in nearly every passing metric, and those numbers are boosted by what might be the best group of skilled players in all of football. Jamar Chase has 34 catches over their 4-game win streak and remains a deep threat on every single play. T. Higgins has 19 receptions and 4 TDs the past 2 weeks, and tight end Mike Gesicki has emerged as a big play option and a matchup nightmare for safeties and linebackers. But despite those dangerous skill players, Cincy still has its flaws. Burrow has been sacked 43 times this year, 11 in just the past 2 games. And despite playing better last week against Denver, their defense is still Swiss cheese. They rank in the bottom 5 in points and yards allowed, and the last time they faced the Steelers in Pittsburgh, George Pickens had a career night with nearly 200 yards and 2 TDs. So look for more deep balls than number 14 tonight.
Well, the South College game plan for the Steelers is trust Mike Tomlin. Check out the results against the Bengals and the rest of the AFC North over his tenure. They've won nearly 3 of every 4 games against Cincy and have dominated the division over the past 18 years. The Bengals also have a few important players that might not play in tonight's game. Running back Chase Brown didn't practice all week and is officially listed as questionable. Brown needs 10 yards for 1,000 yards this season, and T. Higgins is also questionable, but it seems like he will play in today's game.
Yeah, they have to win, so I would imagine if you're close, most of those guys are going to play. Thank you, Rich. And for a deeper look into the Bengals matchup here tonight, we send the program to the South Side, where Merrill Hodge is standing by with another edition of the Playbook.
Hi, everyone. Welcome into the UPMC Rooney Sports Complex for the Acrisure Playbook. Okay, it seemed like just yesterday that they played the Cincinnati Bengals, and here we go again. And they actually played one of their best games against Cincinnati in Cincinnati, defensively and offensively. Now, what the Steelers did a good job of early in the game is even though they threatened it, they didn't bring everybody. So at the snap of the ball, really, they don't blitz. They drop out, but when they drop out, they only rush 4. So technically, this obviously not a blitz. Even though it looked like blitz, it's not a blitz. And then they do the great job of finishing. They close the pocket, he tries to escape, they end up getting a sack. Well, this theme worked throughout the game. Later in the game, they do the exact same thing. They get pressure look, they line up at the line of scrimmage. The only difference in this one, pre-snap, they give a man look. They've locked up across the board, but they've also given a pressure look. It's the back end that they do such a good job of. At the top of Burrow's drop, there's nobody to throw the football. And that is so important. If you're going to give a pressure but not pressure, you cannot give him a way to throw the football right away, because that's where he becomes so deadly, because he's so good at that. Well, they don't. They do a great job of covering everybody. Everybody's accounted for. And then they do an excellent job of getting him down. They don't let him escape and end up sacking him.
All right, Merrill, thanks very much. And Steeler Media Productions for the breakdown of the Bengals. And we know Joe Burrow has been on fire in recent weeks and has really had MVP-like numbers. And if he wasn't on this team, he probably would win it. He currently leads the NFL in completions, passing yards, yards per game, touchdown passes. He's also 21st in the league in interceptions thrown. Charlie, what do you think is their best pass down Burrow here? Should they try to get after him, blitz him, confuse him with different coverages, or simply play their normal base defense?
Yeah, you're going to have to mix it up at some point. But this Bengals offense, they're going to move the football, and you can't stop it. Now, what you can do, you have to hold them to 3 points in the red zone. That is going to be critical in this particular game. And I think ultimately you have to get your hands on the football and try to create a turnover and minimize a possession or two for the Bengals. But you have to go turn around, bend not break mentality. That will be the strategy that I use in today's game.
Yeah, the guy's putting up MVP numbers. Like I said, he should be in the conversation, but likely won't win it with so many good quarterbacks in the AFC especially. When we come back here on the Kickoff, Charlie and I are going to discuss the Steelers' turnover situation ahead of this game and take a look at who may or may not be playing here tonight. We'll be right back.
Steelers Kickoff is presented by Ford. The Ford F-150 is the official truck of the Pittsburgh Steelers and the best-selling truck in Pittsburgh.
All right, welcome back. Steelers Kickoff continues. Time to talk turnovers. And you know the Steelers defense was electric in the category to start this season, but they've really dried up in recent games, and it's made a difference. Take a look at the numbers. Their turnover margin in the first 14 games, 28-12 with a 10-4 record. But in the last 2 games, that turnover margin is 1-4, and of course they dropped both those games. So Charlie, why do you think the Steelers have been on the negative side of that takeaway stat recently? How important is it to change it moving forward?
Yeah, the ball's not bouncing their way. I mean, the ball's on the ground, but yet you're not able to come up with it. And this is what I talk about when I say you have to have a little bit of luck on your side. So when that ball starts bouncing and is on the ground, you have to figure out a way to jump on it and create those turnovers. Because if you do, that gives your offense a potential short field. They are able to convert it, and if they're able to punch it into touchdowns, then now you're able to create that separation as it relates to leads in games.
Yeah, they got to do that, and they got to take advantage, not just field goals. It's good to have Chris Boswell, but it would be nice not to use him and just score touchdowns today. Time to see who's in and who's out for tonight's matchup. A couple of key names are on the injury list, both sides here. Take a look. Steelers corner Dante Jackson, questionable, as you heard Jerry say earlier, though expected to play. Meanwhile, Roman Wilson, Cole Holcomb, Logan Lee, all taken off the IR or PUP list. Both or all of these guys are still out, however. Meanwhile, the Bengals are without Sam Hubbard. That's a big loss to him. Chase Brown and T. Higgins listed as questionable. Same with first-round pick Amaris Mims. Charlie, who's the biggest impact player on the list in your eyes?
That's tough. I think I'm following Dante Jackson again. Last week I talked about his back injury, but can he sustain? And when you're hitting in this cold conditions, that's going to be something I'm going to continue to pay attention to.
Yeah, Chase Brown's very important for them, too. If he plays, that's a big difference. If he doesn't, it helps the Steelers. Finally, Charlie, the Steelers had an important event in your foundation this week. Tell us about what's happening here.
Yes, we were at Best of the Batch Foundation, which we called the Clubhouse, and we had the all-peer team for the Steelers and all high school student athletes. We were there to celebrate them and their accomplishments, not only on the field, but off the field as well. And I had the pleasure of speaking to those guys. They had a chance to tour our facilities, and it was just awesome to be a part of it.
Yeah, great facilities over there. You've made a big difference in the lives of so many, so thanks for that. Almost out of time here on Steelers Kickoff. When we come back, the crew gives the predictions for Saturday Night Showdown with the Bengals. It's all coming up next.
Welcome back to BetMGM Steelers Kickoff.
After going 0-3 in their last 3, they need to get a win. So, Rich, do you foresee one coming tonight?
Yes, I do, and I think trends matter with the Steelers. They're very good with extra days rest and under Mike Tomlin, and I think Pat Freiermuth is going to have a big game over the middle. 6 catches, 68 yards, and a touchdown the last time they played the Bengals. I think it's going to be close. I like the Steelers 28-27.
Yeah, Rich, typically I would think the same thing with Freiermuth. 40 targets, 28 catches in the last 4 games against the Bengals. You would expect that to happen again. But with this cold weather, I think the Steelers are going to want to run the ball. They're hoping to run it 35 to 40 times tonight to help keep the ball away from Joe Burrow. I don't think the score is going to be as high as I predicted, but I'll take the Steelers 30-28. I think it's going to be a tough out for them.
Yeah, it's going to feel like single digit, guys.
Charlie.
Man, everything's telling me to pick the Bengals at this particular point, but I was having a conversation with my mother, a.k.a. Miss Lynn, and she said, no, you have to pick the Steelers. So that's what I'm going with here today in the high-score game. Even though the conditions say otherwise, I still pick them to win 34-31.
All right, I look for more points. I think they're going to be just like the last time. It was 44-38, 45-44. You're going to see a lot of offense. If you like offense, that's what I expect to see. Coming up tomorrow, this is what you should expect to see on KDKA TV. We have a full lineup of stuff for you, beginning with the NFL today on CBS at noon. 1 o'clock, we got the Giants and Philly. Now, no Barkley in that game, so he can't break the record of Eric Dickerson against his former team, which I would have loved to have seen. 4 o'clock, Kansas City, Denver. That's a big one because if Denver should win, they're in. But if Kansas City somehow beats them, then that would hurt their chances. And, of course, Cincinnati needs that to happen. That's going to do it for us. On behalf of everyone here at KDKA, hope you have a great and safe game day as the Steelers take on the Bengals tonight.